self-directed education program schedule in association with Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, UK. At the outset, I'm happy to inform you all that our Union College celebrating its Golden Jubilee year. On behalf of our college, we congratulate all the stakeholders. I now request Vinay Sagar sir to play a short video of our college.
A great journey begins with a small step. Proving this statement true, it all began in 1930 when two women educational enthusiasts took up a noble initiative. In the erstwhile posh locality of Sheshadripuram, Srimati Anandamma and Srimati Seethamma started a primary school with 20 children. Now, Sheshadripuram Educational Trust under its umbrella has 36 institutions. It all began with the educational visionary Sri K.M. Nanjappa, the then president of Sheshadripuram Educational Trust. In 1971, which has been a landmark in the history of education for the working students by starting Sheshadripuram Evening College.
Our college started with the primary objective of imparting formal education to the quality and needy. The college is affiliated to the Bengaluru Central University. Being in the heart of the city, it has an easy reach and connectivity. Its premises comprise of spacious building with good canteen, computerized library, business lab, browsing center, Wi-Fi facility, sports club, thus well equipped for all academic, sports, co-curricular like NSS, NCC, YRC, etc. and extracurricular activities throughout the year. The college organizes orientation program for freshers and guest lecturers to equip them.
As most of us are working in the morning and studying in an evening degree college, it is very facilitative for us to excel in our jobs. Even though we are studying in an evening degree college, we are being provided many state level and national level opportunities to express our talents. Also, many cultural activities are being conducted.
SEDC is engaged in various cultural activities throughout the year. There are numerous committees in the college that perform variedly on their behalf and have a lasting effect on the college, students, as well as outsiders.
Our evening degree college believes in the vision to ignite the minds of every student to identify and develop their inner strength, with the mission to promote holistic development of students by offering quality education and making them self-reliant and progressive.
Our college NCC cadets will visit every academic year in Officers Training Academy Chennai and INS Kadamba Naval Base at Karwar. It will motivate our college NCC cadets to join Indian Armed Forces.
Thank you, N.S. Sagar sir. I now request our beloved principal sir, or Professor N.S. Satish sir, to welcome and introduce all the dignitaries to this international webinar.
Thank you, Nagesha. Ellarigu namaskara. Happy evening to India and happy morning to Oxford, UK. I take this opportunity to welcome you all for this international webinar. At the outset, I would like to introduce and welcome Nadoja Dr. Udepi Krishna, President, Karnataka Gandhi Smaraka Nidhi, Bengaluru, and Honorary General Secretary, Sheshadripuram Education Trust, Bengaluru, India, who is rendering an inaugural address. Sir is a transformation leader with a rare blend of technocrat, educationist, and Gandhian social worker based in Bengaluru. Dr. Krishna is a recipient of Eminent Engineer Award and prestigious fellowships of Institution of Engineering and Technology, UK, and World Academy of Productivity Science, Canada. In recognition of his dedicated service to the nation, Dr. Krishna has been conferred with the President's Gold Medal, the highest national award given for Red Cross humanitarian work of high order by the President of India. And recently, he has conferred with prestigious Nadoja Award by Kannada University Hampi for his education service. Sir, On this occasion, I congratulate you and I welcome you for this international webinar. Further, I would like to introduce and welcome today's team speaker, Dr. Mohammed Taleem, anthropologist, Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, University of Oxford, UK. Sir is a social anthropologist at the University of Oxford. He supervises research on anthropology of Muslim societies and is a fellow at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. His research His research on Sufi groups, Tablighi Jamaat, and madrasas. His current research works are madrasas in recent history, an alternative view between anthropology and the international relations. In social anthropology, he has monograph title writing Labor, Stone Quarry Worker in Delhi. Sir, on behalf of Sheshadipuram Education Trust, I wholeheartedly welcome you for this webinar. I'm happy to introduce and welcome one more guest who is presiding over webinar, Dr. Jeevan Kumar, Honorary Professor, Karnataka State Rural Development and Panchayat Raj University, Gadag, Karnataka, India. Sir has vast teaching experience in, in developmental politics and administration, Indian government and politics, and Gandhian studies. He was a Schomburg Fellow at Remopa College, New Jersey, USA, Fulbright Fellow at United States, and Fellow at Sandburg, Austria. He has many edited books on his credit and innumerable articles, edited books, journals, newspapers in his area of specialization. He is currently a consultant to Karnataka Regional Branch of Indian Institute of Public Administration, Bangalore. He has assumed charge as honorary professor at Karnataka State Rural Development and Panchayat Raj University, Gadag, India. He is also a visiting professor at the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. Sir, on behalf of Sheshadipuram Education Trust, I welcome you and I request you to preside over this webinar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Suresh. Satish, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I welcome all the office bearers and trustees of Sheshadipuram Education Trust and all the principals of our sister institutions, other heads of the institutions, conveners, volunteers, and all the participants who are registered across the globe. I welcome Dharappa Konnur, Program Coordinator, Sunil Kumar G, Coordinator IQAC. And finally, I welcome our own teaching and administrative faculties to this webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of all, I will welcome beloved principal sir to this international webinar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
May I request Nadoja Dr. Udepi Krishna sir, President, Karnataka Gandhi Smaraka Nidhi and Honorary General Secretary, Sheshadipuram Education Trust, Bangalore, India, to render an inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Krishna sir, please unmute your mic, sir. Unmute your mic, sir, please.
Good evening, friends. Let me at the outset express my deep sense of thankfulness for having been part of this very important webinar, international webinar, on a very interesting topic, Islam, Gandhi's Nayi Taleem and self-directed education. Each of these words are heavily loaded, and I'm very happy we have with us today two very eminent scholars guiding through our deliberations. We have with us Dr. Mohammed Taleem, Sultan bin Abdul Aziz Fellow of the Islamic Center, lecturer in Anthropology, Institute of Social and Cultural Anthropology of University of Oxford, and also Dr. D. Jeevan Kumar, a very well-known Gandhian scholar and honorary professor, Karnataka State Rural Development and Panchayat Raj University, who is going to preside over this function and this particular webinar. Friends, I would like to congratulate Sheshadipuram Evening College for having organized through its Gandhi Study Center a program of this kind. as a part of its Golden Jubilee celebrations. The college, Evening College, has completed 50 years of service in the cause of education, particularly of the economically deprived sections of the society, because these students are exposed to a mode called learn and earn. They have to earn and then learn. This is the mode they are into. And the Sheshadipuram Educational Trust is a charitable institution, and it's a charity with 90 years standing. Today we are educating about 23,000 students across 34 institutions in 4 districts of the state, Karnataka state here. And we have been trying to provide quality education at affordable price, and also try to create socially productive citizens. This has been our motto. And today I'm happy more than 162 participants have already logged in for this important event. Friends, I'm not eminently suited like Professor Muhammad Taleem or Professor Jeevan Kumar to deal with the subject with full authority. But then what I thought was, being the president of Karnataka Gandhi Smarak Nidhi and being one of the great admirers of Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy and thought, I thought I should share some of my thoughts on this occasion. And these fragmented thoughts do not, actually fall perhaps in line with the topic that Dr. Muhammad Taleem would like to deliver. Friends, let me tell you, Mahatma Gandhi had reasonably studied almost all religions of the world, including Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism. And one thing that Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, always appreciated was of the monotheistic principle of the Islam religion. That is, God is one. And he would also, because Vinoba was his, spiritual guide, though they were all contemporaries, he would look up to Acharya Vinoba Bhave for guidance. And it was Vinoba who told that the Upanishads always spoke of Ekameva Dvitiyam. That means God is one without a second. And so there are so many things that we can share in common with Hinduism and then Islam. And to Gandhi, God is truth, truth is God. To him, truth was God. And he always, throughout his life, he experimented with truth. And all his activities, all his movements, all his endeavors in life always aimed at experimenting with truth, because he engaged himself constantly with truth. And to him, truth was God, and God, he said, is truth. And not only that, since Mahatma Gandhi spearheaded the entire national movement for freedom, he always spoke of a concept called Sarva Dharma Samabhava. He said all religions are equal. See, irrespective of the number of following each religion has, they are all, each religion, he said, they are all equal. And because on that concept of Sarva Dharma Samabhava, he tried to unite people across the country through the freedom movement. And one appreciation he had of the Islamic religion was, he was appreciative of the fasting, prayers, and regular religious practices. He said these are all very important traits in a religion. And of course, they were all Semitic religions, and then they had their own. But unlike in Hindu religion, he was also what I call observing fasts. He was regular at practicing prayer and all these religious practices. And Mahatma Gandhi found one thing in all religions, that is the soul force. He said it is the soul force which is the core content of every religion, and we must try to engage ourselves with this soul force rather than hate force. Today, what is happening in the name of religion, we are perpetrating this hate force in all our social, economic spheres, and this should not happen. That was what was Mahatma Gandhi's idea about religion, and particularly about Islam. And coming to Gandhi's Nayi Taleem, friends, as you all know, Gandhi worked from almost 1915 to 1948 till his last breath. He was always engaged himself in national reconstruction. He believed, he had two ideas about national work. He said one is the parliamentary work and another is constructive work. So through his constructive work and constructive programs, he wanted to rebuild the Indian society from its grassroots. And of course, the parliamentary work is, of course, establishing governments, electing proper representatives, and that should go on. So the most important thing that Gandhi always emphasized was on the constructive programs. And through these national reconstruction programs, he gave us the idea of education. And in his idea of education, he always emphasized on what is called basic education, the 3 R's, that is reading, writing, and arithmetic. He said these 3 things are very much essential for anyone to call them himself or herself educated. And Gandhi's idea about education was, he said, we need that kind of education which frees us from, which will free us from slavery of every kind. See, this was the main focus of Gandhi. And he said, the purpose of education is to make us independent. The purpose of education is to make us stand up on our own feet. And that was the kind of education Gandhi always thought of. And in 1946, he gave us this new idea of Nayi Taleem. Why I hail Gandhi? See, Gandhi perhaps did not know that during his own lifetime, India would become free. But in 1946 itself, he speaks of the Nayi Taleem. That is the kind of education that the next country requires. And today, see, in the new education policy 2020, we are speaking of skill. Gandhiji spoke of, what is called the 3H formula. That is the development of the head, hand, and heart. Each H would mean the head, hand, and heart. He said, unless there is harmonious growth of all the 3 aspects, that is, we need knowledge, we need skill, and also spiritual education. He said, mere materialistic education will not help unless we have the spiritual education also. And it is this 3H formula that Gandhi gave us through his Nayi Taleem concept. And unfortunately, somewhere we did not follow what Gandhi said after the independence. And perhaps this kind of moral and spiritual education is now totally absent in the Indian curriculum. It's really unfortunate, because Gandhi and Vivekananda, both of them, always emphasized that the greatest strength of India is her spirituality. Today, my dear friends, it is this absence of this spiritual side of education is bothering all of us. And during the freedom struggle also, Mahatma Gandhi always emphasized on particularly young people to concentrate on amassing knowledge. He said the best way of building the future for any country is to see that their young people are empowered with education. And Gandhi very strongly felt that education is the basic remedy for many of the ills of the nation. And particularly, he wanted the propagation of women's education, which was not so much prevalent during his times. And finally, I want to share some of my thoughts on self-directed learning. Self-directed learning, I have a very minimal knowledge about these topics, but then still I thought I should share some of my thoughts. You see, self-directed learning is something that is there in our culture, in our tradition, the old Gurukul system, where, you see, today, in comparison to the old Gurukul system in India and the modern education system, the greatest thing that you see is there is total absence of contemplation and reflection. See, in our education system, in earlier system, there was a lot of space for contemplation and reflection. Teachers and the interaction between the teacher and the taught was so intense and so personal that they would engage themselves in this kind of self-reflection or this kind of contemplation, which is now totally absent in our system. And self-directed study learning, as I understand, is independent study, where there is readiness to learn on the part of the learner. And it involves self-evaluation and self-reflection. And necessarily, we need to take the help of a mentor or a guide. Though we do not get a full-time teacher, we need the help of a mentor or a guide. and self-directed learning is something that makes a unique form of learning. It doesn't fall in line with the formal kind of education, strictly speaking, but the self-directed learning has its own benefit, and we have had a lot of experience from our own tradition. With these few words, I am happy that I have been allowed to share some of my thoughts on such an important occasion, and I very eagerly look forward to Dr. Mohammad Taleem delivering his important lecture now. But before I close, I would like to wish each and every one of you a happy New Year 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the insightful, thought-provoking speech. Now I would request Dr. Muhammad Talib, anthropologist, Expert Center for Islamic Studies Central, University of Oxford, UK, to enlighten us with his speech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I must say that I am completely new to your trust, and I don't know how I was hunted out, so to say, because I lead a very it's a kind of a hermit existence. I'm not on the Facebook. I'm not on any of these new, and yet Professor Kunur sort of just located me. And the reference to Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar and education with a mission also reminded me of my own university, Jamia Millia Islamia, which is this year celebrating its 100 years. It started with non-cooperation movement in 1920 at Gandhi's behest. And as I was listening, seeing the video, I realized how important these women were, Shrimati Anandama and Shrimati Sitama, who started the primary school, and from 20 children, it sort of expanded into thousands of students. And I remember in the history of Jamia, there used to be a couplet from chaste Urdu, but I'm just roughly translating it into English. And I'm visualizing this whole journey of your trust from 20 children to 22,000 children. The couplet is, the goldsmith's house is made of gold, but ours takes blood from our hearts. Our house of straws is so difficult to build. I'm actually very fascinated and deeply admire any educational venture with a mission where the seekers of education are not discriminated on grounds of any social disadvantage. And I find parallels with my experience of fairy tales in my childhood. While fairy tales magically transform the existing state of affairs in imagination, education does the same in the real world. And I view education as a gentle defiance of the existing state of illiteracy and human subjugation. Education seeks to transform the situation of learners through a gradual and persistent effort through teaching and learning. I'm thankful to Dr. Krishna, who has given a very apt background, and I needn't repeat any of what he has said. I'll take it as a given. And I'm really no expert on either Gandhi or Nai Taleem. Dr. Zakir Hussain, who was my father's mentor, he prepared that famous Wardha Commission report. And I was brought up not when Jamia Millia Islamia was in its pristine spirit, but when it was almost taken over by the comforts of the state funding. And it's really today like any other university. But I think we need to recall that spirit, the founding spirit of not only Jamia Millia Islamia, but also Gandhi's Nai Taleem, and what exactly was this entire business of self-directed education. I mean, self-directed education really was allowing students to become active learners. And in being active learners, the assumption was that they would also become active citizens of the country. And to be an active citizen and not a passive citizen is really to question all the time the law, the policy, and not fear raising of questions. Let me come straight to the theme. I would be talking about in the limited time. I would really be talking about self-directed education and and Gandhi's Nai Talim to be providing a kind of a lens through which we view Islam. I actually clarified, I said, I'm no expert on Islam, I'm an anthropologist. But the methodology which Nai Talim gives to approach religion, and when Nai Talim is being invoked as a principle, I would say that perhaps it is addressing to parents, to teachers, as to not rely on textbooks, the word, the literal meaning of it, but Dr. Krishna used the word experience. Gandhi is very fond, he was very fond of this word, experience. Experience is not what happens to us. Experience is what you do with what happens to us. And therefore, this kind of a very reflective, continuous relationship is what experience is really all about. So how Islam actually becomes part of the student's life was important in Jamia Millia Islamia. And what was a non-cooperating impulse, and what was this special educational package? Gandhi's view of national education had two pillars. One, to free the country from colonial rule, and two, to free or decolonize the subjugated mind of the educated Indian. And so the story of Islam is really a story of how an understanding of a specific religion is always to be viewed in a comparative perspective, respectful of the interfaith conversation among the diverse faith traditions. I remember taking my students to an Gandhi ashram. This was close to Jodhpur. I'm forgetting the name of the village. So early morning, there was this interfaith prayer. And I was half asleep. And suddenly I was listening to these following words. All praises be to the Lord of the worlds, the most compassionate, the most merciful, master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us to the straight paths, the path of those you have blessed, not of those who have incurred your wrath, nor of those who have gone astray. And as I was listening to this, I asked this person after the prayer, after the session, I said, could you please tell me what this particular segment is from? And he says, actually, I just have memorized this and I just do it repeatedly. So I can't tell you exactly, but I can help you. So he called somebody, and so this is a piece from Quran. And because I was brought up in my own context, I realized that this segment is part of Gandhi's prayer, early morning prayer. And so this whole, in Jamia Millia Islamia, I'm not very literate about the theory behind the whole university, but I was more of a consumer. And also experienced what Jamia Millia Islamia was really all about. When Gandhi says that I have not seen my creator, neither have I known him, and that I regard that faith as amounting to experience. And he says, I have no word characterizing my belief in God. So the essence of religion, according to Gandhi, is morality. The trouble is that we uh, uh, learn religion textually and doesn't exactly know, has it really become part of our body, our consciousness? How does it connect us to others who are different in their religion? And so the term religion in a very broadest sense really is about self-realization or knowing the self. And in a way, you know the self that you beautifully, gracefully connect to others as part of the need of your being in a way. So if I'm pursuing my particular faith, there's some sense in which I also get connected to the community, the nation around. And in Jamia Millia Islamia, people loved uh, their background, but also their institution, and in the same breath, the nation. So Jamia Millia Islamia was really part of that image of the national university, which Gandhi talked about. And this whole idea was against British injustice and as a kind of a vindication of national honor. Uh, and how to incorporate the customary, conventional, traditional endowments, uh, cultural endowments, linguistic endowments. Uh, so when Gandhi talks about the treasure of Sanskrit and Arabic and Persian and Pali and Magadhi, and goes on and on, the vast menu of linguistic plurality, he is addressing to that universe to which the students belonged. And uh, in the study of religion, and in particular, here I'm referring to Islam, not merely to feed on or repeat what was already said in the tradition, but that how to build on that resource was the challenge before the teachers in Jamia Millia Islamia. And uh, uh, so it was about building a new culture based on the traditions of the past, enriched by the experience of the later times. And so it was not walking backwards into some pure ancient past, but actually to take that into account and then address some of the challenges that one was facing. So it was just like saying that if you are a good Muslim, what would you say about uh, uh, poverty or unemployment in the neighborhood, or the sanitation problem? How would you address that? So how would you address the problem of the world while after having read the sacred word? So the word and the world has to connect all the time. And one cannot, I cannot just memorize some of the words and say, well, now I'm a good Muslim. So, so one part of the ethos of learning religion was that one has to study at least a selection of major Indian religions by its students. So the Hindus may thus have an opportunity to study Quran, or Muslims knowing what the Hindu Shastras contain. If the university, Jamia Millia Islamia, and under the conception of National University, if the university has actually excluded anything, it was the spirit of exclusion that regards a section of humanity as permanently untouchable. There were three motifs or features of this education, Nai Taleem, that was practiced in Jamia. And in fact, Jamia antedated Nai Taleem. It was a kind of a lab uh, where the educational experience of 10 years or perhaps 12 years uh, uh, were then gathered as part of a document which Dr. Zakir Hussain then presented in the educational conference at Wardha. And that's how that report came into being. So I'm actually reporting not so much from Taleem, but what in fact led to the making of that document and glimpses of it. So I must also say that there was a kind of a pre-1947 spirit of learner-centered education. I'm not sure, there are so many parallels that one finds between Gandhi and Sri Aurobindo or B.R. Ambedkar and Dr. Zakir Hussain. And just scholars would just go into saying, oh, they are so different and this and that. But actually, I find the parallels more interesting than the differences. And uh, uh, so exactly when they were in conversation, that is also not part of my interest. It suffices for the present purpose that there were parallels in the manner in which an active learner was imagined, and some institutions practiced it in their curricular routine. So teachers, as uh, Dr. Dr. Krishna pointed out, one could even say that teacher was important, and if I were to put it in a formula, the pedagogy was more important than curriculum. The textbooks were actually made part of, I mean, one didn't have to deliver the textbook, but students got ample opportunities to prepare their own curriculum, in a way, prepare their own texts. So the first, something that I hear from Dr. Zakir Hussain, um, perhaps also Gandhian teaching, that actually in true teaching you cannot teach, that nothing can be taught. The teacher is a kind of a facilitator, instructor, not an instructor, not a taskmaster, but a facilitator, helper, guide. And there are accounts of teachers at Jamia Millia Islamia who were basically encouraging the students to get into the educational process. And then the students were initiated into practical activities. And I'll come to Islam in a minute. The idea was that the teacher was more of a kind of a gardener who was tending plants, allowing them to absorb moisture and light according to their requirements. So the students were plants, imagine in that metaphor, the teacher as a gardener, and not a sculptor who deals with a stone and translates the set image of a sculptor onto the stone. So perhaps one would say, following from this, that no parent ought to decide that his son or daughter shall develop qualities for a prearranged career. So the parents can't be saying, oh, you follow this or you follow that subject or career. It is for the student to decide what career to be followed. And the third principle, broad principle, was to allow the learners to start their journey of education from the near to the far. I mean, most of the time, the textbooks are giving us abstractions and perspectives which are so distant from where the learner actually stands. So whatever may be, I mean, in the case of Jamia Millia Islamia, the starting point was the students were Muslim. But this is not to exceptionalize them or to bracket them as a particular community, but actually to start with that unique starting point and build up on that. So the past, if that is treated as a kind of a foundation, then the great challenge before education was to treat that same past as a material in the present, and on the basis of which one could actually aim for the future. The future has to emerge from what you are doing with the present. Mother tongue was very important from this perspective. The torture of learning English, and there are now beautiful studies on how learners can very easily be deformed. They can have a very degraded sense of the self because they don't know English. And somehow this emphasis on mother tongue was to actually make the whole educational venture, mother tongue as the medium of instruction, to make the educational venture as a very familiar venture. Where the students are, how important it is that where the students are, that would become the starting point of educational venture. Uh, uh, I get two very interesting stories from this educational conference of the 30s. And I'm going into these examples is bit in the same spirit in that in 2020 we are talking more about constitution and what it was in 1947, and now when I see the plight of education, I am trying to invoke the spirit of 1920 or perhaps of 1930s and even Taleem. This whole tendency to commodify education and treat the already meritorious as more as meritorious, treat the natural inequalities and incorporate them into the educational sphere. I remember when, as teacher, we used to meet students, some of whom would know English better than others. Then there was this tendency to prefer those students, and this from the perspective of a teacher who is trying to optimize time and not, get rid of the whole task at hand, so to say. So the best is really to put the bet on those who are already meritorious. Now, is this a sharp contrast in Taleem? And there was one description from a village in Sagaon where it was a very poor situation, as the children hardly had anything to eat. And so how would you actually start the educational process where they don't have water, they don't have food, in a way that on the basis you could build the whole schooling, so to say. The challenge was not to say that these people are uneducable or unteachable. So the starting point was chosen as the child and his specific physical and social needs. So during school hours, two essential needs were recognized: free supply of clean water and at least one wholesome meal. But the supply of food, in order to be self-supporting, was linked to the work in agriculture and gardening. And to avoid monotony and fatigue taking over work, it was followed by play. So the syllabus was designed around water, food, work, and play. This is just to say that learner's starting point, wherever it is. So education would not brand people as unteachable or uneducable, but actually come to the point where the students are. So the 4 classrooms, according to this description in the first report of Taleem, was they were the well, the kitchen, the workshop, and the field. In Jamia Millia Islamia, self-directed education, the meaning of it was the project method. Students were encouraged to undertake projects which in which the teacher was a facilitator or just a guide. One project that was very famous, very well known, documented as well, was the project on Miladun Nabi. Miladun Nabi is singing uh, uh, the, in fact, the celebration of Prophet's birthday, Prophet of Islam's birthday. Now, there are two ways in which this could be approached. One is the approach of Taleem or Jami Millia Islamia, and the other is what we normally see in various countries of the Muslim world. One very simple way is to sing the songs praising the Prophet. It actually turns out to be a kind of resembling collective hymn singing, or in a kirtan, where there is a community of singers, and they enter into some kind of a very emotional effervescence as well, very sensate experience, very beautiful. I've participated in many kirtans and I enjoy the experience of it. The key question, however, the challenge, educational challenge, is what comes out of that whole experience, and does it connect you, allow you, equip you, empower you to respond to A, your own curriculum, and B, what follows from your own institution, how it connects to the wider society. So I'll give you one example. How Miladun Nabi project, which was the students' project, how children participated in that. So to begin with, children's most familiar knowledge, which was the Prophet's of Islam's place of birth, then became a stepping stone to start the journey of education. The process of knowing the Prophet, what does it mean? So it started from students gathered at one place, given the task. They were asked to, in fact, prepare the entire list of what all is to be done on the day of celebration. So the students are collecting pictures of the Arab world, preparing posters, greeting cards, drawing flowers, decorative patterns, the stories about the Prophet's compassion for the poor, forgiving attitudes towards those who were different in faith, then the geography of the Arab world and how it connects to India, their different climatic conditions, Prophet's birthday according to the date in the lunar calendar, and how can one convert it into the calendar most familiar to you. The students, as directing their part in the project, would even discuss whom to invite, when to celebrate the event, its time, and invitees. So the routinization of the project method enabled teachers to creatively appropriate immediate encounters of the learners within the fold of learning. And similarly, Eid became a project. Eid al-Azha became a project where there is a ritual slaughtering of the lamb. And how was Eid, the celebration of Eid, converted into education, converted into active learning of students? Well, the students were asked, what do you do on Eid? You prepare vermicelli, for example, that milk sweet. Where do you get the raw material from? How much do you spend on it? How much time does it take? For how many people are you going to cook? So they were taught maths, they were taught calligraphy and for greeting cards. The geography teacher would say, well, tell us about where is this celebration, Eid celebration geographically located in India and in other places. And so I would then say, I'm actually also looking at time. There were two, just coming to the end of what I'm saying, that there were probably two approaches in transmitting Islam among the believers. One is through the top-down transmission of knowledge, most of the time leaving the receivers of knowledge in a state of simple wonder, awe, and admiration. This reminds me of all collective participation in rituals. These also have their place in life. I'm not underemphasizing them, but here we are talking about how the teaching of a religious faith serves the need of intergroup relations in multi-religious, multicultural society. And little is known as to how a simple celebration of the birthday of the Prophet allows its recipients to acquire social morality that is respectful of the social aspects of collective living, with responsibility towards those who, for a variety of reasons, have not had the privilege of literacy, and freeing of their minds into a very self-confident consciousness. This manner of learning Islam had another very interesting spin-off, which was that there was a spirit of interfaith comparative religious perspective in the routine of Jamia Millia Islamia. So my father used to tell story of his favorite teacher, E.J. Kalat, who was not a Muslim, from South. And he took upon himself the task of telling, reminding students that there is a prayer time and you must go and pray. And when he was asked as to why he's so enthusiastic about it, he says, well, I am able to teach timekeeping from this exercise, discipline. And similarly, there was another teacher, Ramachandran, who used to actually participate in the task of prayer, the namaz. And so students asked him as to, because he was a Hindu, and he says, but why do you participate in Islamic prayer? And this is happening in Jamia Millia Islamia. To which Ramachandran replied that I find your prayer close to my own beliefs. Your conception of creator is about an intangible entity who is almighty, is pure, is nurturer of everyone, every creature, and a lord of the world. Words. So aren't we all oriented to the same God? Gandhi's formula for Taleem was learning, education for life, through life. Education, educational institution, and the wider society, they are in continuous relationship. There is no disjunction between the two. And most of the time, I feel saddened to see educational institutions who provide degrees, and then those degrees are converted into jobs, employment. But little consciousness is given as to how those who are not yet educated, or what is their responsibility towards the larger, playing the role of an active citizen, so to say, where one is continuously drawing attention of the rulers, of the government, of the policy, as to what is the plight in which ordinary people are living. So while I'm talking about the other approach, the alternative approach, the educational approach, I would say that the Seshadripuram Educational Trust actually knows it all. You are educating learners for empowerment, for enrichment, and it's really connecting very difficult ends of our society, which are usually left to fend for itself in normal course. I think I've spoken a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. Now the floor is open for interaction. As we are running out of time, we take up only few major questions. Over to Ines Sagar, sir.
Very good evening, sir. Sir, there is a question from a participant. How do you differ self-learning and self-directed learning? Is this common to all religions?
I don't think by self-learning I don't mean somebody who uh, is doing a self-study to pass in the exam. I'm not referring to that. Self-directed learning was actually a method that was used, the project method in the language of some of the educationists, which Dr. Zakir Hussain adopted from others, where students were encouraged to take up issues from whatever was of interest to the students, that they take up those issues and develop projects around them. The meaning of developing projects was that the students would do some kind of a very rudimentary uh, uh, search for material, put it together, and it was a very engagement with a kind of a diverse material. You needed images, you needed words, quotations, uh, putting them together in a kind of a story. So self-directed learning was converting a portion of the conventional curriculum and creating that space where the students develop their own curriculum, so to say.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have one more question. Does Gandhiji's Nayi Taleem solves present day's education and employment demands?
Actually, I'm more than convinced that Gandhi's emphasis on manual work and creating skills for self-employability continues to be relevant. What has happened today is that there is a very intense burning torch of meritocracy. Education is heavily commodified. We do not know what is the world beyond that commodified situation. The consumers of education who are very meritorious, they don't know what's happening to others. In fact, in 1920, one compatriot of Gandhi, Muhammad Ali, was asked this question, that if you non-cooperate with the existing British institutions, their employment, their jobs, then where would you get the job from? And then he gave a very interesting statistics, which was a comparison of the formal and the informal sector in a way, saying that, do you know, formal sector is just a minuscule of the wide sector which we call Indian society. And most of the time, we don't even talk about that. We just talk about people like us and designate others as people like them. Continuously, we have our own vocabulary to say that, oh, those people are unteachable or uneducable. We don't even want to look at them, so to say. So there is a disjunction between the sector of success, education, and those to which modern education actually hasn't reached, to be honest. And therefore, I view Gandhi's Nai Taleem. Nai Taleem is actually forgotten after 1947 because we have now our own scores to settle. But earlier, at least, there was British to be driven out. Now you can't drive out anyone. I mean, they're all, part of the same house, so to say.
Thank you so much, sir. This is what all about from the Q&A session. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Nagesh, sir.
Thank you very much, respected Dr. Muhammad Taleem, sir, for interacting with us. A small announcement before presidential remarks. We send the feedback form link now in the chat box as well as to your registered mail, which will be active for next 48 hours. Kindly fill the same and send back for e-certificate. The e-certificate will reach you from 7 to 10 days. Very shortly, we will meet in one more international webinar of our Union College, that is on 4th of this month. 4th of January. The topic is role of religious education to conserve environment in association with Vedanta Society, South California, USA. Now I request Dr. D. Jeevan Kumar Sir, Honorary Professor, Karnataka State Rural Development and Panchayat Raj University, Karnataka, India, to render the presidential remarks. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nagesh. I hope all of you can hear me clearly. Let me begin by complimenting our main speaker of the evening, Dr. Mohammed Taleem, for a very fascinating lecture on a topic that really required him to connect three very important areas. Islamic religion, where all of us are not very clear about. How does Gandhi's Nai Taleem and self-directed education fit into how Islam has been looking at pedagogy, looking at education? Some of the examples that he gave us about about Jamia Millia's experiment, whether it is to do with the project system of education and those very interesting projects that he brought out, or even the fact that was expressed, that was told to us here by Dr. Taleem, that the Jamia experiment actually predates Nai Taleem. I didn't know this, sir. I'm grateful to you for pointing this out to us, because for us, Nai Taleem technically begins with Dr. Zakir Hussain. But the fact that Jamia introduced this and Dr. Zakir Hussain was a very careful observer of what was happening there, perhaps a participant observer, is interesting news for us. And I made a few points here which I'd like to include in my understanding of the origins, the beginnings of Nai Taleem. I've done some work on Nai Taleem and done some little reading and reflection and writing on this also. I'd like to bring that into it also. But let me compliment you, sir, for the wise words that you have said, for the way in which you linked up how Islam and Jamia Millia have been looking at Gandhi's Nai Taleem and self-directed education. I particularly liked the couple of things that you pointed out this evening, how although parallels and contrasts, comparisons and contrasts can be drawn in the views of these great minds as far as education is concerned, be it Aurobindo or be it Ambedkar, be it Gandhi. There appear to us, if you look at it at a very cursory level, there appear to be more differences than similarities in the way in which each of these great minds has looked at education. But you very rightly pointed out that when one looks for differences, one tends to get away from the fact that there are so many similarities that you find in the way in which some of these great educational thinkers have looked at education. That's one point that I've flagged, which I would like to take away from this evening's lecture by you. Another important point, that pedagogy is more important than the curriculum. You put that also very well, and the comparison that you drew to the fact that the teacher and all of us have been engaged, continue to be engaged in teaching. It's very important for each one of us who are in this very noble profession to understand that we are to be considered as gardeners. We are not sculptors. Many of us seem to think that the teacher is a sculptor and that he sculpts the minds of the students in the direction in which he or she wants the student to perceive reality, perceive the future and all that. But that would be a fundamental mistake for any teacher to do, to consider himself or herself as a sculptor. The teacher is a gardener. That's a very beautiful comparison that you drew, sir. The teacher is a gardener, and there's no way in which the teacher or the parent can direct the careers of the people of the student, young minds whom we teach. These are things that they would have to do on their own. So these are my takeaways, sir, from what you've actually pointed out. With this, let me briefly share with you what I have learned from Nai Taleem. The context of Nai Taleem you have beautifully pointed out. Some of them are very important for us to keep in mind. But I think there are 6 important factors that we need to keep in mind while viewing the context of Nai Taleem of the 1930s and 1940s. And I'll quickly flag some of these important points. What I'm trying to do is to supplement what Professor Mohammed Taleem has actually attempted to do this evening. One important context, as I have seen in Taleem, is the fact that even at that point of time, largely I think as a result of the influence of the British system of education that seemed to have become very popular in the Indian context at that time and still continues to be considered important today. Point number one is the alienation of the youth from the social reality. That's a point that you also brought out, sir. That Taleem says that this is something that we've got to address, and we've got to bring back the youth who have been alienated from the contemporary reality to what the actual reality is. That is one of the points that I'd like to flag this evening. The second point is the disdain of youth for manual work. Even this continues today. Why should education, alienate people from using their hands, from doing manual work? That's the second context of Taleem as I see it. Third is, as a result of some of these factors, the creation of elite classes in society. You mentioned about the status quo and how education reinforces the status quo. Why should this happen, and why should society produce, why should the education system produce elite classes in any society? That's factor number three. Factor number four is the establishment of divides both in society and economy. This also Taleem was very conscious of. A variety of divides present in society at that point of time. These divides continue with us even today. For example, the rich-poor divide, or the rural-urban divide, or even the agriculture-industry divide. This was, I think, also a context for the emergence of Taleem. The sixth factor, to which again one can go back to the British system of education, the co-option of people into the web, I call it the web, of industrialization, of urbanization, and of consumerism. This kind of a web where people through the education system is taught to get into this, because this is the future. This is what you must get into once you complete your education. Industrialization, urbanization, consumerism, directing students into this kind of a path. This should not happen. So that's the fifth context of Taleem. And the last context is the enslavement and the exploitation of vast sections of the people, which was actually also being done apart from the ruling classes doing this, education serving as a mechanism for the continued enslavement, for the continued exploitation of vast sections of the people. So as I have viewed the emergence of Taleem of the 1930s and 1940s, these are six important factors. There's no time now because I'm just giving some presidential remarks. These six important factors are to be viewed, and against the background of the context of Taleem, we have to look at education, therefore, as a reformatory project. All these things have to go away from education, and therefore education must be viewed as a reformatory project. And I quote from Gandhi here when he said, education must be of a new type for the creation of a new nation, and not just the creation of a new nation. Education must be able to create a new world altogether. And therefore, one may not be wrong in stating that Gandhi ji had an alternative vision of a civilizational agenda, where he felt that through education, one can transform our civilization itself, and one can do a lot of things. So education was a means for a social transformation. Education should be able to respond to the dialectics, to the contradictions, to the paradoxes of modernity, the modernization project. Education was one of the pillars of Gandhiji's larger civilizational agenda. And as Gandhi very rightly put it, education should liberate every young person from both outer shackles as well as inner shackles. What were the outer shackles at the time of the emergence of Taleem? The outer shackles were imperialism, colonialism, slavery, and bondage. These were the outer shackles. But simultaneously, Taleem said, we must also liberate our youngsters from inner shackles. And what were the inner shackles that Gandhiji spoke about? These are the artificial needs that the education system was trying to create in our young people. And this is what Gandhi, through Taleem, of course, the influence of wise people like Zakir Hussain cannot be forgotten here. This is what I would, add as a footnote to what our main speaker, Dr. Mahmood Taleem has told us this evening. Finally, that education however one looks at it, whatever name one gives it, should inculcate the following values. It should inculcate equity, it should inculcate social justice, it should inculcate non-violence, it should inculcate human dignity, it should inculcate economic well-being, and last but not the least, it must also inculcate cultural self-respect. So Nai Taleem, as I have understood it, is rich, and I'm happy that our speaker utilized Nai Taleem and self-directed education and gave us glimpses of how Islam has, done. It became officially recognized as something that Gandhi wanted the nation to follow. That is something that Jamia Millia was doing. So for all these ideas, sir, we are grateful to you. I don't think I have time to expand upon what I've just said, but perhaps on a different occasion, one could look at Nai Taleem a little more carefully. But we are grateful to Dr. Mohammed Taleem. We'd like to listen to you more often, sir. You said that you are in obscurity and you're wondering how Seshadripuram College managed to get hold of you. I think now that you've come out from that obscurity, we would like to listen to you more often and learn from what Islam has to tell us, and how Islam, as a very progressive religion, has a lot to do in order to, inculcate the right values in our youngsters, and in order to help us to get liberated from all those shackles that I think we are still waiting to be liberated from. Thank you very much. I hope I have not taken too much of everybody's time. Back to Seshadripuram Evening College.
Thank you, sir, for rendering the presidential remarks. Now I request Nityashri, administrative staff of our college, to render vote of thanks.
Good evening, one and all. I am Nityashri L, Administrative Staff of Seshadripuram Union Degree College. It's my proud privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Seshadripuram Union Degree College on this occasion. At the outset, I thank Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, UK, for associating with us to conduct this international webinar. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Nadoja Dr. Udepi Krishna sir, a President, Karnataka Gandhi Smaraka Nidhi and Honorary General Secretary, Seshadripuram Educational Trust, Bengaluru, India. I am humbled and grateful to you, sir. I would like to express our sincere thanks to Dr. Muhammad Taleem, anthropologist, Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, for giving an excellent theme talk on Islamic Gandhi's Nai Taleem and self-directed education program schedule. Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. I express our sincere thanks to Dr. D. Jeevan Kumar, Honorary Professor, Karnataka State Rural Development and Panchayat Raj University, Karnataka, India, for rendering the presidential address. Thank you, sir. My special thanks to our beloved principal, Professor N.S. Satish sir, who is the robust of our Seshadripuram Union Degree College. I would like to thank Darappa Konnuru, Program Coordinator, Sunil Kumar G, Coordinator IQAC, who have helped us to materialize this webinar. I express our gratitude to all the principals, conveners, and members of our sister institutions and other colleges, academicians, research scholars, students, and delegates across the globe for participating in this webinar. We will remain grateful to our teaching and administrative staff to their supports. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Satish.